This week on Capitol Report, the Bridgeport election mess.
We've had 2 elections. We've won 2 of them. Enough's enough.
If you ain't first, you're last. You know what I'm talking about?
Is this the end of the race for mayor?
They stole the election. They have to own up to what they've done.
If you want to throw down in fisticuffs, fine. I've got Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary waiting for you, right here.
Also, what does Hartford's new mayor plan to do next?
To talk to thousands of Hartford residents and hear about their dreams and aspirations for this city.
No, I think we should probably go tropical with this thing, like sand from wall to wall.
It's deja vu in New Haven.
We did it! We did it! Yes!
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Plus, President Biden's dwindling job approval numbers.
I was concerned before these polls, and I'm concerned now.
Now only 46% of people like you.
Run through it one more time.
And Connecticut elects a new zoo mayor. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to a Will Ferrell edition of Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutch. We are so glad you're spending part of your Sunday morning alongside the recently newly minted mayor of Bloomfield, Connecticut. Congratulations, Danielle Wong. You're the only former guy on the set. Has to be Eric Sim was former Speaker of the House in the Democratic Side.
Good to be here.
Liz Karanowitz is here with us. Republican strategist, right? Johnny Mack back with us.
A couple of has-beens and a mayor.
There you go. How about that? Huh? Hey, let's get into it, guys. Hey, so if you thought the Bridgeport mayoral election couldn't get any more convoluted and confusing, well, think again. Once again, it appeared Mayor Joe Ganim was going to lose to John Gomes as the machine count numbers were rolling in. Gomes ran on the independent line, but then absentee ballots got counted. Of course they did. And Ganim once again catapulted. He did that again to me into the lead with votes all counted. Ganim claims victory, but that victory is still in question. Remember, a judge tossed out the primary results on evidence of absentee ballot box stuffing scandal just days before the election day. But Ganim says holding a new primary and then another election would be, in his words, asinine. Here's a candid Gomes and Ganim sharing their view on the current situation. Roll that tape, John.
It's fundamentally unfair at this point, after 2 wins, to say to the voters, hey guys, those don't count. That 14,000 people who voted yesterday who said, this is the results. This is, and these are the people that we want to be our elected officials and mayor of this city of Bridgeport should be another redo. It's fundamentally unfair, and I'm asking that we stop this. What are we going to do? An election next month and in January and the month after that?
I want him to listen very clearly. We will not accept defeat as long as the people of Bridgeport give us the win on the polls. He committed a crime along with his perpetrator. It's been evident on videotape and has been supported by a verdict. If anyone needs to back down and bring justice and integrity back to this system of democracy in Bridgeport, it's him and his cronies.
Well, those of you in TV land, I want you to listen in and lean in close to your television set this morning because Capitol Report panel has a few things to say. Johnny McKinney, I certainly know what Lowell Weicker would do in a situation like this, and I think I know what Stuart B. McKinney would do in a situation like this. The silence of Connecticut Democrats on this issue in Bridgeport is deafening, John McKinney.
Right, and to use Mayor Ganim's term, here's what's fundamentally unfair. Election after election after election, and everybody in Bridgeport talks about it and knows it's not a dirty little secret anymore. It's just dirty. The absentee ballots are abused illegally to help the machine. It's been happening for too long. And somebody, I hope it's Chris Murphy, I hope it's Jim Himes, stand up and say this is unfair to the people of Bridgeport. We're becoming a national joke. This isn't about Joe Ganim or John Gomes. This is about the people of Bridgeport. They deserve better. We need to get in there, and it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, the big part for me, too, is we see at the national level that people are putting doubt in our elections, and that's damaging to the fabric of our country. And here we are where we see videotape of it actually happening, and we're not doing enough. And now we're just supposed to accept what the results were from this other election? No. The fruit of the tree is still rotten no matter how long it goes. We need to do it. We need to restore at a statewide level trust in our elections so we're not fodder for the evening newses, because that's what we were. We were all over this country of our elections are flawed. We need to fix it and fix it now.
Liz, every Republican in the state of Connecticut, including you, are forced to answer the Donald Trump question 1,000 times a day when it comes to elections. Why isn't any Democrat in the state of Connecticut speaking up against what's obviously going on in Bridgeport for a very long time?
Well, listen, you're absolutely right. And it's not just about what happens in Bridgeport, but just generally speaking. I think there is a different set of standards for Republicans and for Democrats. I think the bigger issue is, as John pointed out, this has been happening over and over and over again. This happened to Senator Moore, and everybody looked the other way. How many politicians in Bridgeport have been arrested or charged or pled guilty to absentee ballot crimes or to election crimes, and everyone looks the other way? You had Senator Bradley indicted, and Governor Lamont said nothing. He was sitting on Senate committees. So you have to do something. You have to stand up. And John, I know you did that when you were in the Senate. When it's your own team, your voice matters just as much. So I beg Democrats in this state, do something.
Yeah, we actually have to do something. What's happening in Bridgeport is egregious, and I think it trickles down to the effectiveness that elections have across the state, including my own. You know, are votes going to count, which I think is critical that it's going to be the battle of the narratives moving forward, whether the primary is in December or January. And so depending on how much candidates get the momentum, and that narrative is going to depend on turnout. It's going to depend on making sure that voters are motivated to, again, have their voice be heard. I do think Ganem needs legitimacy. I think that needs to happen in the election or the redo or primary number 2. And I think that's going to be critical for the state of Connecticut and all of elections moving forward. It is national news, and it's concerning.
All right, guys, it's the definition of insanity, right? All right, guys, bring on the Arunin era in Hartford. Just a few hours after his election night victory, Hartford's mayor-elect wasted no time introducing his transition team. Among them, Harrison was his pal, House Speaker Matt Ritter, Chief of Staff to State Treasurer Andrea Comer, and the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving President Jay Williams. Outgoing Mayor Luke Bronin was also strap hanging around, and Arunin spoke about his vision for the inclusive and thriving city of Hartford. Watch this.
We really want to get the voices of as many Hartford residents at the table. I've been fortunate over the course of this campaign to talk to thousands of Hartford residents and hear about their dreams and aspirations for this city. And I'm so encouraged for the future of this city. But that future is built upon a strong foundation.
After you put heart and soul into this work for 8 years, you want nothing more than to be able to hand that responsibility over to a team and to a mayor that you know is going to approach that work with the same commitment, the same love for this city, the same belief in this city, the same confidence for where we can go.
Luke's also handed over that pension mess to Arunin, too. So, guys, where do we go now?
Well, this is an exciting day, I think, for our capital city, and I think Arunin's going to do a really great job. I just want to throw a little cold water here. On Tuesday, we had a write-in candidate for the Board of Education in the town of Westport get more votes than the mayor of our capital city. So as exciting as it is, why aren't we getting more people out to vote and participate in our elections?
Yeah, voter turnout is absolutely critical, and it's concerning that, you know, bigger states, including Hartford, had issues getting bodies out to the polls. And so, you know, that's going to be an issue moving forward. But as far as Arunin, congratulations to him. We want him to succeed. We need him to succeed. The state of Connecticut, surrounding towns need Arunin to succeed. Hartford is the capital, and he has some heavy hitters on his transition team. He has the support of the establishment, and so, you know, it's better for everyone if we, you know, wish Arunin well on his transition into mayor of the capital.
Right, Liz, 20 seconds to fawn over Arunin like you always do.
I think I've said this before, what you see is what you get with Arunin, and I am excited for him, for Liza, for the kids. They believe in the city. They have been and will continue to be an important advocate for the people of that city. And I think we can all feel good about the work that they're going to do, because Arunin really does care about the people who live in the city.
Okay, so one of the big election night takeaway was that, as McKinney said, a number of Connecticut cities and towns went from red to blue. It even had the attention of Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who posted about it on X the morning after Election Day, calling it a big deal. Take a look at the map. Danbury, Derby, Fairfield, Wethersfield, Old Lyme, Newington, Cheshire, East Lyme, Clinton, just to name a few. The Murph did point out Connecticut does have more Republican town leaders than Democrats. But guys, what did we learn on election night?
I think we learned that the Connecticut Republicans have to redefine who they are. It's hurting them. It's straddling this line between where their primary voters are and where the general election voters are. I think they have the leaders that can do it if they can get in the room and come up with an overall campaign message that works. The current one's not working. People don't know what they stand for, and it's even trickling down to the municipal level.
I think we have to be careful about nationalizing these local elections, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, Republicans did pick up quite a few seats as well on election night. Newtown, North Canaan, Canton, Milford, right? So it's not like this was a complete wash. We did pick up some seats. However, in these places where you have Republicans elected in Democrat cities like Danbury, for example, Democrats just have the ability to do what the Philadelphia Eagles do on the 1 yard line. It's the brotherly shove, and they all get down and they work together and they put their Democrats over the finish line. And I think too often I have seen Republicans, instead of doing the brotherly shove, they're scattered. They're all looking for the ball to get the reception and do the Gronk spike on their own.
Wow, a lot of football.
How about that? Yeah. You couldn't bring yourself to say tush, though.
The tush push.
Like the state of Connecticut, like places throughout the entire country, saw this blue wave, and we held a line. Democrats flipped a ton of important, critical wins in the state of Connecticut. We have over 250,000 more people that now are represented by Democrats in the state of Connecticut, and so that's amazing. Now, I want to really point out the big one too, as far as having more women top vote getters around in town councils and board of educations, LGBTQI representation, people of color that are going to be these top vote getters, these top elected officials. That is huge for Connecticut. I can say that I'm no longer going to be the only black woman mayor in the state of Connecticut, and I'm so excited for that, and that is a huge win for everyone.
I mean, can you wrap it up?
Recount in the town of Fairfield on Tuesday. The Democrats have spiked the ball. It may have been a little premature. Let's see what happens.
All right, guys, up next on Capitol Report. You think we're done talking about Election Day? Not even close. We're going to drill down further on some of the outcomes with News 8's political contributor Mike Cerulli when we get back. Do not go in. Go away. Whatever. Huh? All right, capitulate, catapult, I don't know. Ballot scandal taking up all the oxygen in the room. It's not the only political story in Connecticut. We're joined by News 8's political contributor Mike Cerulli. Break down some of the other trends we saw on election night. Morning, Mike.
How are you, Tom?
Good, man. So, hey, let's spend a little moment on Bridgeport. You've been reporting on the ground there. What do we know about this redo primary?
Well, here's two things we don't know about the redo primary. One is we don't know when it's going to be. The judge set a deadline 10 days from last Wednesday, so that's coming up this weekend. Obviously, today's a state holiday as we're taping, so we won't know today. We'll probably know Monday when that primary is going to be, probably sometime in mid-December. The other thing we don't know is if the Ganim camp intends to appeal the original ruling and try to get Tuesday's results, where he appeared to win, to stand. One thing we do know that I can report is at this very moment, there are conversations happening around Bridgeport to try to maybe get some political figures in the city who have been on the sidelines to endorse John Gomes. The state of those conversations right now is ongoing, and we'll see in the next week or so if anything comes of them.
Right, Joe. So, Mike, so taking a step back from Bridgeport and looking at some of the broader trends, we saw a statewide voter turnout right around 33%, tiny bit higher than the last muni election. This is pretty much what we expected to see, right? However, there's some striking voter turnout numbers from the suburbs, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking on this show and on our election night coverage about falling turnout in the cities. I would point out, with the exception of Waterbury, where they actually increased voter turnout or matched their numbers from 4 years ago. But what's really striking about those city numbers is when you actually compare them to their suburbs. Take Hartford, for example. We saw turnout numbers there that were actually exceeded by the nearby suburb of Simsbury, which obviously has a much smaller population than our capital city. There's examples of this all around the state. Wallingford, New Haven were pretty much equal in terms of turnout. Shelton and Bridgeport, again, a huge disparity in population, but a sort of even playing field in terms of voter turnout. So, you know, McKinney mentioned this amazing write-in campaign in Westport, Jill Dillon exceeding the vote count of the winner of the mayoral race in the capital city. So quite incredible to see the shift of raw vote totals from the cities into the suburbs.
All right, so Shirley, so what are the ramifications of the suburbs now becoming the political center of Connecticut state battleground states?
So,
titties, right?
Obviously, the issues at play are gonna be different. You know, you sort of have a suburban sensibility creeping in, and I again go back to Simsbury, right? This is a town that votes for Ned Lamont, that votes for federal Democrats, that voted for Joe Biden. But on Tuesday, they voted down a ballot question for recreational marijuana sales in their town. So you can kind of see when it comes to things like marijuana, when it comes to things like zoning, when it comes to things like public safety, there's going to be more of a suburban sensibility. And I would just leave you with this. We've been talking a lot about Bridgeport and the power of that city. You know, one question I've been hearing is, you know, Bridgeport has the largest population, but if it's not producing the most votes, why does it still wield the power that it has at state conventions with the most delegates if it's being exceeded by places like Shelton, by places like Simsbury? I think that's a compelling question to ask as we begin to look at the changing battlegrounds here in Connecticut.
All right, so really the panel's all nodding here. Good job. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Hey, so before we take a break, a final farewell to a uniting force among the Connecticut Republican Party. Pat Longo, big Calpert fan, passed away last week. For decades, Pat served as a National Republican Committee woman, vice chair, Connecticut Republican Party. Longo was a delegate to 7 Republican National Conventions, loved and respected by family, friends, colleagues alike. Pat was 86 when she died, and before she did pass, she left word to have Liz Karanowitz do a reading at her memorial service. Liz, it's all yours.
Great honor to have been there for Pat and to be able to help say goodbye. She was this incredible force in our state and in our country, a true Republican in every way. Nobody respected the Reagan's 11th commandment better than Pat Longo to not speak ill of our other Republicans, and I think her lasting legacy is going to live on for a very long time of service, not only to the party, but to the community and to the country.
Need more Republicans like Pat Longo for sure. Hey, up next on Calp Report, how worried should Democrats be about President Biden's sagging approval ratings? A pretty powerful voice has some thoughts on the matter. We'll discuss when we get back. Don't go away. Don't make them like Pat anymore, huh? Nope. Dust hasn't even settled on the 2023 election, so what better time than now to talk about 2024 election? We are about 1 year out from what it appears to be a Joe Biden-Donald Trump rematch, and this time around, Joe Biden is one who is facing sagging approval numbers and could be looking at an uphill battle. And here's what we know. The polling numbers are pretty consistent. Many of them show the exact same thing. Biden only has a 39% approval rating. This is capturing a lot of people's attention, including Connecticut's senior senator, who was asked about it last week on CNN. Watch this.
I was concerned before these polls, and I'm concerned now. These presidential races over the last couple of terms have been very tight. No one is going to have a runaway election here. It's going to take a lot of hard work, concentration, resources, and so we have our work cut out for us.
The word for this is bedwetting, they call it, among the Democrats.
I'm quite familiar with that, yeah. I think the big problem here is even if you listen to the Democratic strategists around the country, they're saying his approval ratings don't match his legislative successes. Well, that's a clear problem. You haven't been able to get to the voters. The voters are exactly where they were before, despite what he does legislatively. You have a candidate problem, and they have to admit that, and they have to start making some decisions. Now, Joe Manchin, with his decision, no party, no labels, quite possibly, will even mess it up even further. It may be time for the Democrats to stand up and say, Joe, we appreciate everything you've done. You've given us 4 years. You steadied the ship at the time we needed you, but this isn't your time. I wonder if anybody will have the confidence to do that.
Well, I think we're going to have a president elected without 50% of the vote. You've got Cornel West running. Jill Stein has just announced she's going to run as a Green Party. Robert Kennedy Jr. is polling around 24%. I think beyond these numbers, it's really the battle states that you got to look at. And that's battleground states where Trump currently has a big lead. I pray it's not Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, but I do think to take a little of the sting away, it's not about the fact that people are unenthusiastic about Joe Biden. Democrats hate Donald Trump. They'll get out and vote for anybody versus Donald Trump, and there's a lot of us on my side that feel the same way.
Yeah, I hope that is the case, because I think it does come down to this enthusiasm gap. Biden has lost significant ground in the black community, which we know is critical to his success. The young votes, he's losing ground in all those different spaces. And so if the leadership of the nation does not come in from the Democratic side and say, this is the plan, let's either go hard on his campaign, let's make sure that his successes are front and center, or let's find another candidate that's going to motivate people to turn out to the polls, then we're going to have a big issue here.
Yeah, you can already see President Obama is coming around trying to wrap his arms and his brand around President Biden. So we know Democrats are nationally working to try and figure that out, but they're running short on time to be able to do that.
Gavin Newsom.
You've been saying for a long time.
Bashir.
All right, guys, so when Capitol Report returns, what was the closest race on Election Day in Connecticut? The answer when we get back. Don't go away. Well, Stefanowski not wearing that Glenn Youngkin vest anymore, huh? Well, there's one race in Connecticut decided by just 15 votes, and it's the only race where votes are actually for sale. Yep. It's Connecticut's zoo mayor, and the winner, Tahoe the River Otter. Tahoe won by a whisker, squeaking out a 15-vote win over Allie the box turtle. Slow and steady doesn't get to the zoo mayor this time around. Tahoe replaced Rhubarb, the two-toed sloth, who's promising a smooth transition of power.
The otter looks very angry. All business.
Did you just say it's the only place where votes are for sale?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Mayor, hey, listen, Major Tom, the Narragansett turkey, got smoked.
Yeah.
Smoked.
See, I don't like
that.
that.
Was my guy.
By the way, smoked turkeys I'm going to be having for Thanksgiving.
And River,
I don't like that mayoral pick. I'm out of here.
All I'm saying is get yourself to the zoo and go see their lights performance.
For the mayor.
It's not the only zoo
The
in
coach,
Bridgeport
Lizzie. Johnny back down to the See you next week.
All right, John.
Today's the day,
Come
John.
on. Let's go! Oh!